That was my. I think we're live, Dennis. I think. Let me check. If we're live. If we're live. If we're really live. Yeah, we're live. Let me refresh that page too. We're live, but are we? Are we? Okay. While we wait for people to join, let's play a song. But it's not showing yet on the. I don't know how to get it there. Yes, they managed to do it. What's the think of love? 1, 2, Yay! Let's see. 7 people watching. 7 people watching. Um, maybe, maybe. And there's chat here. Nobody has said anything. Okay, but so welcome to this live stream, and we're trying something new. I got the suggestion from a viewer last time to try out OBS Streamlabs, what I'm trying now. So that means that I can actually project images on the screen. So when we're playing a song, I could put the chord sheet. Yeah, it's going really well. It looks pretty good. So I've got the world famous Denis Chang sitting next to me, and he's not here especially for this live stream, although that'd be great. He's here because we're working on a well, it's not secret anymore, right, Dennis? No. We're working on a project which we started. Well, you started it in Montreal, but yesterday you had your first shooting day in the Netherlands, and it's all about the violin. And I think it's best if Dennis would tell you something about it because I think it's a unique project, which would be interesting for all violin players. Doesn't matter which style, doesn't matter which age, just all violin players. So Dennis, could you tell us something about this project?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the violin since I was very young, actually, even before I started playing music, because my parents were listening to a lot of classical music. And very young, I already knew who Perlman was, Zuckerman, all those people. And then later on, when I started playing music, I mean, I played guitar, but I still was always interested in violin. So then a few years ago, I decided
Oh,
to.
they can't hear you. Why can't they hear you? Why can't they hear you, Dennis?
Oh
Um,
my.
that's weird.
You can't hear me? Because you don't believe in me.
Can you still? You can't hear Dennis still. You cannot hear Dennis.
Yo,
Then
what's up?
okay, then I'm gonna try and
Oh,
not.
wait, look, is there the phantom power thingy? Wait, I see it's lighting up there, though.
No, it's working here.
Put on the headphones.
Yeah. No, it's working here. I'm gonna take you off. Wait, I'm gonna take you off. Turn my mic off.
If you want to hear me,
Can you
you
try
have
it?
to believe in me.
Can you say something now?
Yo, what's up?
Can you hear him now?
Yo, what's up? Yo, 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 what's up, bruh? Or
Left
sister.
earbud.
Left earbud.
Oh, that's also not good. Should be mono. Oh, but they can hear you now, right? But it's not mono. It's stereo.
It's because they believe.
Hmm.
When you believe, you can see or you can hear.
Let's see if we can make it mono.
You can do it, Aslan.
Bam. Down to mono. So it should be mono now. Is it mono? Okay.
I got mono, baby.
So we played that first song without people being able to hear you.
It's alright.
I'll cut
I
it off.
played all
maybe.
sorts of cool chords, though.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't playing particularly well. Okay, so to start over, Dennis was going to talk about his project about violin. So maybe start over, Dennis.
Okay, I really love the violin. I always have. And a few years ago, I had the idea from after having collaborated with many violinists such as yourself, but many others around the world, I realized how controversial violin philosophy pedagogy can be. You know, it seems standardized, and it is in some ways. And as I said in the comments somewhere, it's kind of like a religion. If you look at Christianity, you have like the Catholic Church, you have Protestants, you have the Orthodox Church, you have Mormonism. They all believe in Jesus, and they all believe a lot of the same things, but then they disagree on so many things. And I think violin is exactly the same. Would you agree?
Yeah. Well, I agree because I myself had different teachers that had completely different views on violin, and the main problem with violin teaching is I think that not every teacher, but many teachers consider their way to be the best way, right? And I understand that when you're teaching children, right, you don't want to confuse the kids and say something like, but there's also a million other ways. You want to give them what they perceive to be a very good way to do things. But the problem is that most teachers or many teachers never lose this view, right? So they go through all their lives thinking, okay, you got to play with this kind of shoulder rest, for instance, right? Or it's impossible to use any other bow hold than the Franco-Belgian bow hold, or whatever, whatever it is.
But would you also say that's also because that's the only thing they know? They don't necessarily.
No, that's the only thing they know that works.
For them.
Yeah. And also maybe it's because they're from a city or a culture where everybody plays like that.
Yeah.
And their teacher played like that.
And as I was explaining earlier before the microphone went off.
Be careful with the P's, I hear.
Yeah, I was always into the violin, even since I was like 8 years old. I remember listening to, because my parents were big classical music fans, so I knew about Zuckerman, Misha Elman, Brahma, all the names and everything. So, and then I played guitar later, and even while I was playing jazz guitar and everything, I was always reading up on violin stuff, researching on my own. I knew quite a lot about violin culture, and more so than people who were going to school with me studying classical violin. I would ask them, "Oh, do you know this and that?" It's like, "No, what's that? Who's that?" And that always surprised me. A lot of, I think, not all, of course, but a lot of violinists, they just do what they're told to do from their teacher, and it goes on like that. So Of
Yeah.
course, some do explore, but not a lot.
So why are you doing now? Are you doing then this project? What is the project about?
Okay, so this project is about interviewing the world's quote unquote best violinists, whether concert masters of major symphonies, international soloists, renowned teachers from well known schools, etc., to get their views on, well, quote unquote controversial topics like technique, vibrato, bow hold, instrument setup, health issues, things like that.
Yeah, so we had a pretty interesting day yesterday. Dennis interviewed both concertmasters of the Netherlands Philharmonic Orchestra,
Yes.
and you more or less asked them the same questions, but they had very different answers.
Yes.
Both great players,
Mhm.
right? They sound incredible, but they already have different views on what they consider to be a workable way to play the violin, and they're from the same orchestra, right? And tomorrow we're interviewing the Groupmans, and Igor Groupman is the concertmaster of the Rotterdam Philharmonic, and Vesna Groupman is his wife, and they're both teachers at University of the Arts in Rotterdam, and they're both students of HIFETS. And they're very, very good, well-respected teachers with a very clear methodology. So it's very interesting to see what they're gonna say. I suspect that they will have very clear answers to your questions. Because the thing is, so if you interview mostly people that play and don't have this teaching philosophy, they might not have even thought about many of the things you're asking them. What's happened yesterday, right? You asked many questions that surprised them, like, oh, I never thought about how many contact points my left hand has on the violin, right? They have to actually check how many contact points there are. Not every question, but many questions. So it's interesting to see the difference between people that mostly play and people that have taught their entire lives, or maybe come from a very strict school that teaches some things.
Yeah, and my goal is to, because I know often, especially when you're from a smaller town or city, sometimes the choice in violin teachers is very, very limited. So you can only have access to very limited amounts of information. And my hope is to release all these interviews on my website, DC Music School, and viewers can just be exposed to all these different opinions from all these different wonderful players.
Yeah, and you're not only going to the Netherlands. Of course, you're in Canada. You already interviewed a couple of people, but where are you planning to go?
No, I didn't interview anyone in Canada. I did a lot of preliminary tests, just asking random violinists here and there around the world,
okay.
and just so just to prepare for this. And then yesterday was actually the first official thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who else? Where do you plan to go?
Wherever anyone wants me, man. Really, seriously.
Really?
If you know anyone in New York, in London, Paris, Brussels, Tokyo, I'll go.
Yeah, and only classical violin players?
We'll talk about that later. Maybe we can. But for just that violin, for the longest time was pretty much just classical violin.
Yeah.
But then no, we want to talk to other styles as well to show that it doesn't always have to be like classical way. You have fiddlers who have their own thing going on, and it's great.
So the interesting thing about Dennis is that, of course, as many of you know, he's a world-class teacher and guitar player, very well known for that. But he also plays violin, and he he has a concert pretty soon with Ray Chen, I heard. No, I'm kidding.
That's right.
No,
My school
but
is ass.
he started seriously studying the violin 2 years ago.
March of when was Django Go Go?
March of 2017.
Okay, there
Yeah.
we go.
And it started because I was at your
You were in my place, yeah.
place, and we were talking about the way I play the violin, and I have very particular views, just because I thought a lot about how to hold the instrument. So, for instance, I don't play with the shoulder rest, right, and I play with this Russian bow hold. There's videos about it on my channel, and it kind of interested you because I was the first one that came to your place that played like that, right?
No, it wasn't really even about that. It's just that I grabbed the violin for fun, and you showed me how to do vibrato. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, pretty interested. And then after we talked about all that stuff, which was interesting for sure.
Yeah. So if you're a violin player, or if you know a well-respected violin player that has a very clear view on how they play, then please contact Dennis or me,
Yes.
and
Yep.
then because the more people you get in the documentary, the better, of course.
So basically, I'm gonna release this on my online platform, which is called DC Musical. There's a link somewhere, I'm sure. And the great thing about this is modern technology. Whereas in the past you had to write books or you had VHS or DVDs, now you have an online streaming platform. Basically means I can constantly update this project, and add more and more interviews and so on.
Yeah. So if you would have a question, let's show people what it's about. If you would have a question, let's ask a question that you would ask these violin players to me, and then I'll try to answer it. Maybe like 2 questions.
The first question I will ask everyone is setup. How much have you invested into investigating a violin setup? Chin rest or shoulder rest, and/or?
So my answer, though, of course, I don't have a shoulder rest. I do have a chin rest on the violin, and my answer is very easy. When I played with a shoulder rest, which was also for a long time, I investigated nothing in the beginning because my teacher just said, use this shoulder rest. And then she would adjust it for me, and she would put it on the violin even. But I've never felt really comfortable with the shoulder rest I had. So at one point, I said, okay, I should try different shoulder rests. But I went to the violin shop, and they had maybe 3 brands. And I tried all of them, and none of them felt particularly better than the other. So I kind of gave up on that and stayed uncomfortable until I had a teacher that actually said, you know what, let's play without. And I took it off. And I never investigated any further because
Did that teacher play without also?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I immediately felt, it wasn't that I felt more comfortable, but I felt more connected to the instrument. That's a personal thing. I'm not saying that it will happen to everyone, but because the thing is that I was taught if you play without the shoulder rest, you have to hold the violin up with your left hand. So this action of really holding the violin up kind of made me feel more connected to the instrument because I was actually holding it with the limb that is also playing it, right? Instead of holding it here, 'cause I can't hold it, right? It immediately drops. So, no further investigation after that.
That's another question I ask people is, according to you, should the violin be supported with the left hand? And then before you answer that, many violin teachers would say, never ever do that. It's the worst thing you can do.
And that makes sense. I actually said it in the video. It makes so much sense if somebody tells you, listen, if you hold it between your neck and your shoulder, or even your collarbone, then you free up your arm to play, right? So then that makes perfect sense. It makes so much sense that I'd almost say, yeah, why shouldn't you do that? But the thing is, for me, there is some more complications if you play without a shoulder rest, especially when you have to go, when you're high on the violin and you have to go back because now you have to move your thumb first because otherwise the support would be gone, But the thing is, if you press the muscle that's holding up the violin is not the same one that's actually pressing down the strings, right? So there is no real disadvantage for that thing. The only disadvantage is if you're high up on the violin, you have to go back, but then you have to train just to move your thumb first. That's the only thing I had to change. Move my thumb first.
Before that, when you were playing with the shoulder rest, did your teacher tell you never to support with the thumb, or were you always supporting anyway?
No, she had me stand like this for 5 minutes, like just holding the violin like this.
With the shoulder rest.
With those shoulder rests, yeah, to keep my violin level. So it set the violin level. So she never told me don't support with your arm, but yeah, making a kid do this for 5 minutes will make him hold the violin between. Yeah, right. So that, yeah.
Okay, and then how long did it take you to get used to this feeling of supporting with the left hand?
I immediately liked that because I felt more connected, but some things I had to change. For instance, I used to have an arm vibrato. Well, if you have an arm vibrato, so for people that don't know, if you can vibrate in a couple of different ways, but the 2 main ones are moving your arm, right, like this, moving your whole arm, and in principle you're locking your wrist, or you move your wrist, so then you're locking your arm like this, and you can do like a combination of both. But for me, I had this huge arm vibrato. And if you have no shoulder, I have to actually hold the violin if I do that. Because the violin will shake so much because you're kind of pulling the violin away from your shoulder, that I had to change it to this smaller, more contained motion of the wrist vibrato. So that took time. And then shifting because I had to change the way I shifted.
would you say in essence that, okay, let's say you were under the impression that you were never supposed to support with the left hand, then suddenly you have to support with the left hand. It's just a completely different technique.
Yeah, no, not everything.
Well, not completely, but
Not
it's still.
Yeah, the shifting and the vibrato was completely different for me. But let's say I would already have had a wrist vibrato, then I wouldn't have to change that, right? But so the change took about half year to get back to my old level.
But then, and also you forgot to say that by then you had been playing for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Your technique was already quite good.
Yeah. Now I could already play the most standard repertoire.
I would imagine it would be so much harder if you're also figuring that stuff out as well.
Yeah, that's why it's important, I think, to have a teacher that actually understands a way to play without shoulder rest that works.
And in some ways, if you start with a shoulder rest, let's say feels somewhat comfortable, you can potentially skip all this process.
Yes.
So that's why that's maybe one of the temptations.
I think probably you progress faster in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I'm not sure you're gonna sound better.
I don't know.
That I don't know.
But you definitely skip an entire process.
Yeah. Maybe the last thing I want to say about it is that for me it's very important to note that I'm not actually doing anything with my shoulder, right? Because the violin for me is on my collarbone, right here, and my shoulder is completely. Maybe I can turn, but my shoulder is completely free, right? There's nothing here, and there's also people with the shoulder rest that kind of put the shoulder towards the violin, and even though that works, I was always taught if you do that, you will get pain in your shoulder. You will injure yourself. So I never do that.
That's another thing, is that there doesn't seem to be any clear instruction on how to play without shoulder rest, because it seems that it's a very personal thing. You have to figure out for yourself. Because some people that I interviewed said, if you want to play without the shoulder rest, you need to do this and hold it like this.
Yeah.
And some people do say that. And they
I
do
know.
play that way, and they seem to manage, but it seems quite unhealthy.
It seems unhealthy. It's also maybe if you're very lucky and you're very strong physically, it will never bother you.
And the analogy I came up with is some people, smoke cigarettes their whole lives, drink, but they have no problem. Some people live a very healthy life. They get lung cancer and everything.
Yeah.
So
there's
luck.
But I think if you can keep your shoulder down, in
of
general,
course.
that's better. That's better.
Well, it's the same thing. If you avoid junk food and drugs and everything,
But then you have to realize that your arm is actually holding the instrument almost completely. My chin is only there to keep the violin from making too much of this motion, right?
What about then chin rest setup? Have you ever investigated that? Because yours is.
I did when I played with shoulder rest because I was never comfortable. So I tried the chin rest that was in the middle, and at first I liked it because it's a change. I think, oh, this is better. But then I went back to one at the side. I actually tried to play with the chin rest there, but then put my chin in the middle like this. It's kind of weird, but that's the thing. The moment I took off the shoulder rest, I never investigated this anymore. Even
okay.
It's just because all the action is here. It's in my left hand.
But I noticed that your neck isn't like particularly super tall.
Yeah.
It's not particularly short either. But the standard one seems to work well. But there's some people I've interviewed people with really long necks. They probably need to investigate something with a taller.
No, of course, body type is so important. I'm never gonna say, listen, you will never need a taller shoulder chin rest if you play without shoulder rest. No, if your leg is very long, I could see that, because you still want to be able to put your chin on it without having to turn your head, of course.
But from a cultural point of view, violin culture is most people will investigate shoulder rest first, rather than chin rest. Why is that according to you?
Because that's the most easy thing to adjust, right? You can adjust the height very easily. And the chin rest is not easy to adjust. You have to take it off and put a completely new chin rest on it.
Yesterday when we interviewed one of the concertmasters of the Netherlands Philharmonic, he said that he had his chin rest custom made for him.
Yeah, custom, but that's, of course, a very expensive option.
Yeah.
And the shoulder rest is not that expensive. And nowadays, even you can order them online and you can adjust them. There's so many. There's ones that go completely off your shoulder. There's small ones that you can't see. They're like this on the violin. You can see. Many options. And
based on my so far many unofficial interviews, it just seems that even some professional teachers are not necessarily equipped with the knowledge to help students with this kind of info. So it can be very difficult.
It can be very difficult. That's actually why I made those videos.
Yeah.
I made those videos because I was searching and I couldn't find any video that specifically said what I was taught. So I made a video about it. So I think I want to go to the next topic, but let's
Okay.
check the questions.
Sure.
Let's check the questions.
G minor 755. That's my favorite chord. G minor 755. This one. Oh yeah.
There are three Lone Ranger as there are three different mechanical types: vibrato, arm, wrist, finger. But the shape of the vibrato movement will vary. Also, when to vibrate. Oh, it's another question. It's a remark, and it's true. Hello, Dennis. Will you be in Petit Barbeau campsite this year in Samois-sur-Seine?
Yes, with David Reinhardt, he's doing the same Reinhardt family camp again. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, and we're staying. I'm staying with Dennis in one house.
Yeah. Not together in the same room.
No, that's again in the same room.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But we're not gonna actually jam. We're gonna only play Overcooked. So.
Yes, on the PS4.
Okay, so let's. Lone Ranger says, so you have lost one of the main vibrato's arm if you don't have a shoulder rest. Yes,
Well,
that's
it depends
true.
on your setup, though, right? Because Nathan Cole switched to no shoulder, and he can still do it with. He found a setup that worked for him. And there are people who make chin rests with a little lip, they call it.
Yeah.
So that hooks.
A bump,
Yeah,
I think, right? Yeah.
Well, he calls it lip. The person
Okay.
makes, and then
Yeah.
it stays in put. So setup is very important.
It is true, but for me, I have found that I can express any vibrato I want with wrist. But it's true. I lost the super fast arm vibrato. Because arm vibrato you can do super fast, but it's also very tiring to do that.
Well, you can get it again if you've just found the right setup too.
Yeah, but
sure.
I don't
But
miss it.
you don't care. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's another thing. Okay, so then I wanted to interview. We talked about. You asked me if I'm only interviewing classical violinists. Right now, yes, it's gonna be the majority of my interviewees. But then eventually, I want to interview other people who play other styles because I think technique should serve the music, and there's no point in learning all sorts of things if you're never gonna use it.
Yeah, right.
So if you play jazz violin, yesterday Vadim, one of the concert masters, was suggesting, if you're gonna play without a shoulder rest, you maybe need a sponge or a little pad because you have all these complicated things.
Yeah.
But Christian is a jazz violinist; he's never gonna play the Brahms concerto or anything.
No.
What he doesn't need, so everything works for him.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna play something complicated, maybe you do have to investigate in more things. Maybe.
No, definitely, I agree completely. And so that's also very difficult for me to say. You never need a shoulder rest because I never played Brahms violin concerto, and if I would have to play it, maybe I would consider something. But I actually did play it when I was studying without the shoulder rest. I'm not saying I played it at the highest level, but I managed to play all the notes. Okay, let's go to the next topic.
Yo.
And the next topic would be improvising over chords, Dennis.
Yeah, playing the changes, as they say.
Playing the changes. So, this is now, if you're a guitar player, you think, why are they talking about that? Of course, when you improvise a jazz solo, you're going to play over the chords. But the thing is, in violin land, jazz violin land, and especially gypsy jazz violin, this is a rarity.
It's
As amazing as it sounds.
It's definitely not the majority.
Why is that, Dennis?
I don't know. And I would even admit that there was a time when I listened to violinists and didn't notice this. I believe this has to do with tradition, and also there's a tradition and a psychological aspect to this. The fact that jazz violin is extremely rare already. It's one thing. So when we hear it, it's like, whoa, there's a jazz violin.
Yeah.
And then often it's also played by people who have a strong technical foundation. So we hear it's in tune.
Right.
We hear that there's good sound, and we focus on that, but we're not listening to the fact that they're saying random things.
So the thing is, like you said, there's even very good guitar players that themselves play the chords that for some reason don't hear it when the violin player is not doing it.
That's what I'm saying. It's this cultural thing, and there were studies that shown that when you listen to your own, I don't know which study, but you can look it up on Google, but they show that when you listen to your own instruments, so in my case, guitar, your brain reacts differently than when you listen to an instrument that you don't play.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing is, that's the weirdest thing, because now maybe you're thinking that we're talking about jammers at Samoa, but no, this is across all levels, right? From the lowest to the highest level, there are players that actually not aware of the chords they're improvising over, with varying degrees of success.
We also have to define what it means to play changes, because for both of us, I think it doesn't mean just playing arpeggios because that's
No.
boring. We mean playing changes and then being in the style to hear things, quote unquote cliches.
And it's also I like to. So the thing is, when I do violin workshop, just happened in March Manouche. I walked in, right, and there were 16 violin players, and I said the first question. I say it I ask with a smile. I was like, who here doesn't know the chords to the tunes they're improvising on? And everybody raised their everybody raised their hand, and we laughed. But this is just not uncommon, right?
That's
this happens.
the cultural norm, it seems,
Yeah.
around the world.
So, but then people always ask me, well, why should I know the chords? Because I can actually play. I know the form, right, and I have nice lines, and that is all great. But the thing is, what is the difference now between one song in G and another song in G if you don't know the chords? There's no difference anymore. It's gonna all be G bluesy stuff, right?
At best.
Maybe we should demonstrate that.
Sure.
So let me get the chord progression of Lady Be Good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Find out what changes you use.
I just took the changes from the ideal.
Whatever it is, I don't know.
I don't mean it.
That's another thing. It's also possible to in a given song there are multiple possibilities, and it's good, in my opinion anyway, to know which changes you're gonna use. If especially maybe not in a jam session, but in a concert setting, it's definitely good to agree on the chords. Okay, cool. Those are close to the Django chords. I see it there.
I see it there, but it's not. Now it's not appearing on the screen. I don't know why.
Is it necessary for them?
No, not now.
I mean, I don't need the chords. I know the song.
Okay,
And actually, they put more chords than I would want to put. That's why I think
Okay,
it's very
I moved.
okay.
Okay, I'll try it later. We're gonna play Lady Be Good, and I'm just gonna play. I'm not gonna pay any attention to the chords. Very difficult for me. So what am I gonna? Let's first play, and then I'll explain what I did.
Okay.
I'll play a little bit of the theme in the first A, so we get a feel for the song.
Sure.
1, 2.
That's something that was actually, in my opinion, that was a good solo. I know that you didn't outline the chords, but that would be the best case scenario.
Yes, because I did avoid notes that would horribly clash
Yeah.
the chords. Because I'm always aware of the chords. But what I did do now is, I only played G major scale and G pentatonic, minor pentatonic, sometimes major pentatonic, and that's it. And then of course I try to play good solo in the sense that I try to make phrases.
But you
Right.
also have good ears, so you use your ears to guide you to avoid notes that might sound kind of bad.
Yeah, and of course. So for instance, when the bridge goes to C sharp diminished, right? I hanged on this G and the E, because I know they're part of the chord, right? So I was maybe even cheating, but now let's play another song in G, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Let's play Hungaria. Oh. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's basically the same solo.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone heard, but over the A flat you stayed in G.
Yeah, and I could have just I was thinking, okay, should I pick 2 notes from the pentatonic that fit? But I on purposely just played G major now. But I played the same solo. There is no difference between those 2 songs, right? And you know why? Because I don't know the chords of these songs.
Oh, you did.
Pretending. But so this happens. Now here's the reason to know the chords, because now I can play two completely different solos that actually fit the tune. Because if Dennis wouldn't be playing, you wouldn't be able to to know which. Okay, I'm gonna play a different song in G without Dennis. So I'm gonna think about the song. Okay, I have a song, and Dennis has to guess which song it is.
I can't give anything but love.
Damn. No, here we go. Oh, I gave it away there, right?
Oh, that was Dinah.
No, made it, but close. Yeah, could have been Dinah, but I was actually thinking about stopping at Decca.
Ah.
But the bridge goes to B7, and I forgot that I shouldn't do it, but I played a D flat, D sharp. So then you thought, oh, he's playing B7 to go to E minor for Dinah, right?
Did you do the E flat 7 or?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to tell that.
No, because I don't know it's E flat 7. So why would I play E flat 7?
So then I wouldn't have been able to tell.
Yeah. So even though the lines, they sound nice, like swinging, but there's no difference between the tunes anymore.
It could have been Lady Be Good too.
And if you play a solo like that on guitar, then nobody would like it, and that's
Or almost any jazz instrument.
Yeah, because people are used to hearing lots of subtleties and harmony on those instruments.
They're also used to hearing a certain idiom.
Yeah. So now let's just play stopping a Decca again. So stopping a Decca, the chords are G for 2 bars, and then goes to E flat 7. So let's do 1A. I ignored. Second A I played.
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you see, what did I do? I played this. What's the one note in E flat 7 that I want to hit? It's a D flat, right? It's an E flat and a D flat, because those two notes are not in the previous chord.
Or a B flat too.
Or B flat. Actually, I could be thinking A7 even. Now let's go to the bridge, right? So the bridge is just rhythm changes. Bridge.
B7, E7, A7, D7.
Yeah. So let's play the second A, and then the bridge I'm gonna ignore it, and I'm gonna try to find notes in G that kind of fit the bridge. 1, 2, second A. 1,
Or
2.
why not chromatics?
Or chromatic, yeah, it could be chromatics. 1. Now let's do first notes from G, then let's do
Okay.
chromatics, and then
All right.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, second A. Well, this kind of works. Kind
Yeah.
of works. Okay, now let's play chromatic. 1, 2, 1, 2.
That's one of the tricks that a lot of famous violinists do.
Yeah.
To
Well, I could go even crazier. More chromatic tricks. 1, 2. Right. Okay. But now let's play the changes.
Okay.
Let's play. So now I'm gonna. So what does it mean? So it's B7. So what am I gonna do? B7. What's the note in B7 that is gonna define it? It's gonna be D sharp. It's gonna probably be C, maybe to play like a flat 9. To resolve to E, and on E, maybe I want to play a different sound. Maybe I'll play like G sharp half diminished. Right. Then it's A7, and I want to have a different sound. So maybe I play some B flat minor, like an altered sound, right?
Makes this chord.
Yeah. And then there's D7. For D7, let's play some octatonic, something like that. Okay, here we go. So second A, 1, 2. shit. I had to play B flat minor again. 1, 2. And so that's just one of the options I had, because if I know the chords, there's so many things I could be doing, right? I could choose the same color for every chord. I could choose different colors, and I also have the option to ignore it. That's just another option. But if the only option is to ignore it because you don't know what the chords are, then every solo will sound the same. Then only the defining factor is the key. Right?
I would even go further. I know that not every violinist does this, but I like this. That for another reason for the violinist to know the chord is so that they can accompany sometimes duets.
Right.
And if you can't, then you're kind of like how do you say? You're just the rhythm slave for the violin player.
So let's do one more experiment. Let's go to the song Limehouse Blues.
Sure.
Because so sometimes violin players are so good at faking it that I really can tell during little bit good if they know the changes or not. I probably could tell when they go to the bridge, because if you don't play G7 to C, then I don't understand it, because there's only one place in that song where you can go to a different key. Why would you not do that? But okay, let's say I'm not sure. Then Limehouse Blues is a test, because Limehouse Blues is a song in G, but it doesn't start in G. It starts on C7, right? And that's a big difference, because C7 has a B flat in it, and actually a very very weird note to be playing on that C is a B.
But there are many famous jazz violin solos that insist on that note.
Yeah, because what happens is at the end of Limehouse Blues, there's a 2-5 to G, right? So let's say you have very good ears, because that's the thing. The very famous jazz violin players that do this, they have very good ears, so they can hit some things. So they might be playing, they hear this thing going to G, and then they stay in G, right? Because that little G7 to C7, it's so short at the end, you might miss that. So let's just play Limehouse Blues, and I'm gonna make this horrible mistake of thinking that the first chord is G. So maybe let's start the second half so I can play the theme, and then we're going into solo. Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And on the A7, I'm home free, because then I'm playing G, and that sounds. But the first chord, that's just horrible. And I can imagine that if you are a violin player that doesn't know it's C7, or maybe you know but you don't know what that means, that you play it and you kind of hear something is off, but you don't realize, and you're hoping just for the next chord.
The way I'm playing it, it's kind of hard to hear. But if we play it as a ballad and I play this voicing,
yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Now it's very clear.
Yeah. So one solution would be, if you're a violin player that doesn't know the change, to think G minor. Yeah. Right? Because now let's do G minor, that's slow. 3, 4. That works, right?
It does.
That works. So, but of course that's enough, because there's not enough, because there happens much more in Limehouse Blues. But at one point, there's this B7 to E minor.
It seems that the B7, when we this afternoon we spent a lot of time listening to a lot of jazz solos by famous musicians, and B7 in the key of G seems to be very very problematic for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
And the thing is, if you don't have to really play it, because E minor is kind of G, right?
Yeah.
But that's your chance to play something really interesting. That B7 is your chance. So if you missed every chorus, then I wonder, why would you do that? That is that one chance to sound not in G. So let's just play not too fast tempo, and I'm gonna hit all the chords. I'm gonna try one more time to get the chords on the screen, and if it doesn't work, too bad.
C9 for 4 bars, A7 for 4 bars, G for 2 bars, and then the B7.
That's true.
I'll nod my head too for the B7 so you can.
If we get it up, let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can get it on the screen.
And fact, I'll play my B7 like I'll ring it out like this. I'll do that.
Okay, let's see if we find it. Yes, yes, it does. Okay, cool.
Nice.
Let's make it a little smaller.
Noise.
Okay.
Toy.
So you see the B7. You see the B7 right?
Yes,
there?
Captain Holt. What?
Let's make it smaller because it will be here. Put it there, right here. Okay, so there's this B7 I'm gonna hit. What I'm gonna do also is there's this D flat 7 to C7, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but actually he doesn't have to play. But I'm gonna think something that resolves to C7,
Passing chord, yeah.
and then there's also this E7 to A minor.
Yes.
I'm gonna hit the E7 too.
Sure.
Not too fast so people can follow.
It's okay.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So see, I made a little mistake there because Dennis played C minor, which is correct, and I've just played A minor 7 as a normal 2/5. It's not a mistake, but these things, of course, you only notice if you know that it's C minor.
And also, I would say that when another thing about playing the changes is that you make decisions on options to use. You can purposely
Yes, yeah. For instance, I played B7 way too early. I did it on purpose, right? But because that's another thing. If you know the chords, you can do those tricks. You can start playing the interesting chords earlier, and what you do then is you create a kind of conversation. It's almost like you're telling the rhythm guitar player, listen, I want to go to B7, and then it's like the rhythm player hears you. It's like, oh, you want a B7? Okay, here's B7. But of course, he's just playing the chords, but this creates this very interesting tension. Yeah. Let's do that again. I'm gonna play the B7 way too early,
okay,
right? And I'm gonna hit the C minor this time. 1, 2, 2. Yeah?
yes,
I think that's enough about playing the chords. But
Yeah.
please, if you're a violin player and you are interested in it, I can only encourage you to learn how to play over the chords. And Dennis has great lessons with a couple of violin players that do this, like Tim Kliphaus and Jason Anick.
Jason Anick, Tim Klespaus, Christian House. There's you also,
Yeah,
Charles
there's me.
Limburger,
Yeah.
and we just did Alexandre Tripodi.
And Alexander Cavalier.
There we go. And
Great
there'll be
player.
More.
Yeah. So that's our mission. Our mission is now to spread the gospel of playing the chords. Hey, but if you can sound great without it, that's good too. Just don't. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's wise to realize that that is not the way or that jazz is being played in general, like outside of gypsy jazz.
I would even add one thing, because sometimes people, when you say, oh, learn a chord, they think it's cerebral, like very, very, very academic. But that doesn't have to be the case. Like, for example, they'll use on guitar. People say, oh, Birelli doesn't know the chords, and it's true. He doesn't understand the function or anything, but he hears the music in his head, so he does understand in his way. That's what we mean. That's what I mean anyway.
Of course, but and then when he plays rhythm, he plays the right chords.
There we
right?
go. So
Yeah.
he knows the chords, but he just doesn't know the names for them.
I got a workshop once, and one of the participants who was completely disagreeing with my rant about, they said, but what is wrong without not knowing the chords? I just listen to the music and I connect to the colors and the atmosphere of the music, right?
Yeah, I get that all the time too.
Yeah. And then I said, okay, let's say you hire a guitar player, you don't know him, and then say you make a set list, and then you go on stage and you say, okay, let's play Limehouse Blues. and then the guitar player tells you, "Oh, I don't know it, but just play. I'll connect to whatever you play." You wouldn't even start the song because you would assume that in order to comp you, or he has to know the chords. Why would it be a good thing for you to demand the guitar player to know the
Yeah.
chords, but you don't know them yourself?
But that's what I said earlier. It's a cultural thing because violinists usually don't have to be accompanists. They just have to be the melody player.
Yeah, but that's where it goes wrong, because also as a solo player, of course, you gotta know the chords.
And we were in March Manouche with Rocky Gresset, a French Parisian gypsy who doesn't even know what E7 means. But when you grab an instrument, you do this, he will do this.
They don't know the names.
They don't know the names.
But that's often confused with not knowing the chords.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And if you can hear the chords and you don't know, because there's some people say, "Oh, I don't know the chords," but then they grab their instrument and they can accompany it.
Yeah.
They know the chords.
Of course, they know the chords. Not knowing the chord names is not the same as not knowing how the harmony moves.
That's why I want to specify that.
Because
Very
if I go to
important.
China and nobody speaks English, then I also don't know the chords, the chord names, right? So
And then you're screwed.
okay, let's go to the next. Oh, let's see if there are questions.
There's some text there. It says, "Sing the melody." You're not gonna get the chords by singing the melody to Stella by Starlight.
It says David Friel says, even BS sounds great with strong intent and good support. That's true.
Yes,
That's true. Not to say that it's okay to do that. But BS is still BS.
Just watch that ending scene from Billy Madison.
Yeah. Sing the melody and play the chords. No matter how good your ear, this will make it better. Yeah, could be. But there's one thing I want to say about this whole thing about if you can sing it, you should be able to sing it. Or I know people that can sing great, but still can play a good solo. So it's not that if you can hear great lines in your head, that you will also be able to play great lines. It's that connection between singing and your fingers might be very different. Also, realize
What do you mean by singing great? Like they can scat a solo?
they can scat a solo.
Really?
Well, but I want to say another thing. The level or the demands on scatting solos are even lower than they are on jazz violin
Like
solos.
we're talking about which songs? Like even like Limehouse Blues, they can scat?
No, but the thing is, there's many jazz vocalists that are great vocalists that when they're scatting, it's very obvious
still
they
the
don't know
same
the it's
Okay,
the
then
same
that's
thing.
still the same thing.
Yeah. So if you can scat a great solo, hit all the chords, then you probably know the chords.
Because me, when I solo, I can hear, and I'm not a good singer, but I can hear that, da 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 da.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah, true. Have you got a book we can buy to learn jazz violin? I don't. And
well, it's all on my website though.
yeah. So Dennis and by the way, I just turned on. So I have for the people that I have to make some commercial for my products. I do have a Patreon, by the way. It's not so interesting for violin players, but for guitar players, if you join my Patreon, there's so much tab and like notes there, over 100 pages, I think, or at least over 50. And I'm constantly updating. And also, I turned on Super Chat for this thing, which is really a gamer thing that people think, oh, let's give these guys $3 because they're making a video. I turned it on. I don't know how it works, but if you see a button, you can actually donate something if you want. Okay. Let's go to the next topic, Dennis.
Yep.
Next topic will be, let's see.
Good one. A good topic. I agree.
Bowing. I can be very short about bowing, but we could talk about bowing in general. But for me, jazz. That's the first question I get. Is if I can say something about jazz bowing, and I thought it'd be nice to say something about it now. Let me get rid of Limehouse Blues.
Go ahead. Bowing. From having produced many. Huh?
Thank you, Lone Ranger. We got our first. It helps saying it. Thank you so much. I have to share with Dennis.
No.
of course.
Okay. He's gonna buy me
Okay.
dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Chinese restaurant. I'm going to the Chinese.
Oh yeah, great. We have the best Chinese restaurant in The Hague for people that are watching.
Yesterday we wanted to get ramen, a Japanese place, and I told Christian, if they speak Chinese, we have to walk out.
Yeah.
So we walk in, I hear the staff talk to each other Chinese. Let's get out of here.
Let's go. Yeah. Why is that? Because ramen is not Chinese, right?
That's Japanese.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Juan.
I know this guy's from Texas.
Ah.
Homer Simpson.
$1 for each for playing the chords, but Dennis wasn't playing the chords. Okay. Bowing. So here's the thing. When I started jazz violin, coming from classical, I thought that bowing was one of the key things to learn. So I actually read some books about it, and there was this very specific things like, okay, if you have 4/8 notes, you got to bow the third and the second and the fourth and the first note. So you get a skill like this. So let's say I play G scale, and I'll play one octave, everything separate. So classical bowing would maybe be slur 1, the first and second note, and then so on. Like. Right? So for jazz bowing, they said, okay, now slur, instead of slurring 1, 2, and 3, 4, slur 2, 3, and 4, 1, like this. So 3, 4. And that makes sense because now you get the bow chains on the offbeat, and in jazz the offbeat, if you accent it a little bit, it works, right? So I tried to play like that in the beginning, but then when I started transcribing jazz violin players, and also when I saw them play, for instance, I saw Watti Rosenberg play, great gypsy jazz violin player out of the Rosenberg family. He's afraid to fly, I think, or he doesn't like to fly, so that's why you've never seen him in the US, for instance. But he's a great player. And I was watching him, and he plays almost everything separate bowing, like this. Let's say he would be playing some solo, I don't know, some solo. So that's not my natural style, so I can really do it. But everything bowing, and it's separate, and it sounded great. Then I watched transcribed Corpelli, and there was lots of slurs, but not always 2, 3, and 4, 1. And then I watched someone else, and complete mix. So then I figured, you know what? It's not actually the bowing; it's the sound that you get and the swing, and you have to be able to get that sound with every bowing you do.
I would go along the same line, but you have to listen to musicians that you like and try to copy the same, not copy, but get.
Yeah. But so for me, when I practice, I try to get the same sound with all bowing. So let's say I play this G scale, and I first play everything separate, or I first use this bowing that I just used, this obvious bowing. Or maybe you can play like a G rhythm, 3, 4. Okay, now let's play everything separate, but get the same sound. 3, 4. Now let's do the classical bowing, get the same sound. 3, 4. Of course, it's a little bit more difficult, but I'm now focused on the sound. And if you do that, then in the end, you can use whatever bowing is comfortable for you.
That's what I mean. But if you don't hear the style in your head, it's hard to do it. That's why you got to listen to a lot of music. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a good violinist at all, but
I'm pretty good for playing that short.
But I've been listening to jazz violin for 20 years. I can just do it without even thinking about anything.
Oh, Lone Ranger gave you money for a drink as well, Dennis.
For what?
He said Lone Ranger gave again. He said, "It's a drink for Dennis." But it's going straight to my PayPal.
I don't need the money. I'm doing this for fun.
Okay, so that is about bowing. And then another topic is vibrato. Let's see.
Vibrato.
Vibrato in jazz. What do you have an opinion on vibrato?
I think again, you just really need to listen to jazz musicians that you really, really like, many, and then try to go for that same feel, because in jazz music you can do almost anything you want. If you want to have that classical vibrato, you can go for it, but it might not be idiomatic.
Right. So I'm a little bit more technical about it in the sense that I think you can distinguish between different kinds of vibratos. So, for instance, there's this um, classical vibrato we're talking about, and I think it has a place in jazz, especially when you play the theme of a ballad.
Yeah.
Only if you like the romantic sound,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you don't, of course, there's this whole style which kind of originated with Jean-Luc Ponty and the Lockwood, which is more bebopy. And if you do the vibrato there, it doesn't really fit because
That's why you say you gotta find some
Yeah.
style that you like, because you can do almost anything and it's probably acceptable.
But then there's also this shake vibrato I call, like this. Right, it's more like a very fast glissandi. And that has a definitely a place in jazz.
That's
It's like a big band trumpet, you know?
It's also a very gypsy vibrato.
Yeah,
Western
but
gypsy.
even in bebop, let's say you play this kind of Parker lick, maybe you play... like a short, like a little shake, like a trumpet section of a big band.
And I noticed that you only do it at the end. You
Yes.
don't do it during the eighth note. Can you try to do a phrase during the eighth notes with the vibrato?
I don't think I can do that. No.
It's because some classical violinists they do that when they try to play jazz. It kind of
Yeah.
sounds strange.
That's a good topic too. Let's get after this. Let's finish this. And then there's this little color vibrato like this. And that is a vibrato. Let's say you want to play with this really modern sound, like the. You have this little color, right? And you have the little this whisper tone. For me, I'm a Grappelli kind of guy, so I like to use classical vibrato like Grappelli does, but not the whole time, of course. I'm not gonna play eighth notes like this. Right? I'm not gonna do that. But I like the. I like that sound.
Yeah, sure. So do
Okay.
I.
So maybe a good topic that you just like the first mistakes you make as a classical player when you try to approach jazz violin, apart from not knowing the lines but the sound.
But there's also the bowing that we're talking about, because I sometimes see classical violinists trying to teach jazz. I say, oh, if you want to play jazz, all you have to do is play like.
Yeah.
And it sounds cheesy.
So the first mistake is to play too hoppy. Can you call it hoppy or like?
Yeah, like dunka 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 dunka.
And then especially when you do it non-legato, so like this. Now let's do
Just do a song.
yeah, all of me. 1, 2.
And yours is still not that very
No,
hoppy.
I tried to make it worse during, but if you just play legato, that it already solves a lot. 1, 2, 3. Right, so
Yes.
legato solves a lot. So the other thing is to play way too much slides. That's the worst one. 1, 2. Right? Then it becomes some kind of joke. So the thing is, there are slides in gypsy jazz, but when I teach people, I always say make the slides very short and very rare.
I would just say that all this can be solved if you just listen to good players.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just
I know, but
absorb it.
then you got to be able to hear it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sometimes it's very
Yeah.
difficult to hear it, right?
Yeah.
You
You
can
gotta know how to listen to it.
you can if I have to play Turkish classical music tomorrow, which is very difficult. You can let me listen to it all day. I'm very sure I will make very bad taste mistakes tomorrow. So
It's like a language. You see, I don't speak Flemish or Dutch, but I was I was in Belgium for a few days and here, and now even though I can already understand what the differences are.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Flemish is flute du flute du.
it's more sing song. Yeah, that's true. So what's another mistake? Another mistake would be for classical players. I don't know. Those are the worst things. Like obvious things to be too many slides, having a very too much like what we call a gypsy vibrato, like the shake vibrato, but all the time, like I was doing, and having
There's
the
also time. Their time is often not as
yeah
the relationship with time in groove-based music.
But that's an advanced concept.
Okay.
Of course, right? I mean, I'm just talking about some people ask you to jam, and it's gonna be easy song like minor string, and then I'm gonna improvise, and then you do those things, and then it sounds very tacky.
Yeah. Well, I think that covers it all then.
Yeah, great. So those are all the topics we had on our list. So let's go to questions first, and maybe there's one more thing we want to hit, but it's been an hour, so let's give people more chances to give us super chats. No, that's not necessary. But thanks for the people that did it, Lone Ranger and Juan. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Questions. Yo, questions.
I said, can you do one for violinists? What do they mean?
I think some jazz ones try to strum like a guitar and it doesn't. Yeah, it does. What?
Do you have tabs for the last violin solo? Good joke. That's a good joke. What type of bow do you use? Carbon fiber? Yes. Actually, this is a carbon fiber bow. It is the coolest bow ever. Why? Because it has a skull on it. It has a skull on it. Now, it is an Arcus bow. It's the second Arcus bow I got. And the first Arcus bow was super, super light. And I thought I liked it. But then actually it was very difficult to get a weighty tone with it. So this Arcus bow is a little bit heavier. And I really like it. And then when I play with the wooden bow now, I find it quite heavy. It's weird. But you get used to everything. Loving jazz violin. Oh. Do you ever play off the string or 3-stopped chords during jazz? Do you ever play off the string?
Like spiccato and that kind of stuff.
Oh, you mean like sautier? No, never. Maybe when I play the theme or Tigerek, I might do that, but no. 3-stop chords? No. You know, there's this trick where you unwind the violin bow and then play with the hairs, and then you can play 4-note chords. That is great. That is a Giovannutti trick. But 3-stop chords, the problem with 3-stop chords is they sound like this. It's very classical sound, right? Let's try some solo where I do this.
Not too fast then.
No, all of me. 1, 2, 3. Also,
some of it, if you did sparsely,
yeah,
okay.
It's kind of funny, but it is a very classical kind of thing.
In fact, if you talk about bowing, because then some people say, if you want to play jazz, I've heard this, you have to study all these different kinds of bowing, spiccato, so all that stuff.
Yeah.
And all it really needs détaché.
Yeah, détaché, legato playing, and good lines. You need good lines. Anyone know Alex Lefebvre? Would love to hear his ideas and discussion with you guys if he speaks English. Do you know him?
Alex Lefebvre, isn't he a bass player? That's my friend from, I don't know, Montreal bass player.
If he's your friend, you know him, right?
Alex Lefebvre, yeah, my buddy.
Okay.
But he's a bass player. He plays like fusion.
Ever play with the bow on the neck? Oh yeah, I was talking about it. Yeah, Giovanni, that's a great trick. Know people that can do that really well.
Evan Price.
Evan Price. So search for Evan Price. Playing Django's improvisation number 2 for guitar on violin. It's the most amazing thing on violin, I think, on YouTube. Apart from that 7-year-old girl that plays Rachmaninoff. But and also Luann Homsey, Tommy Davy's wife. If I think most people will be familiar with Tommy Davy, a very fantastic violin player, can also do that really well. In your guitar. Sounded cool and exciting, those chords. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'll do it more, but probably not. In your guitar vibrato video, you missed the violin style vibrato. Yes, I didn't do that. What is your thoughts on using violin style vibrato on the Gypsy Jazz guitar?
I love it, but it's not easy for guitar players to do this.
Can you do it?
Yeah, because I play violin.
Yeah, but there's no effect almost.
It's very subtle.
Yes,
but guitar players cannot do this. I've tried to show that they can't do it.
No?
They'll have to practice.
Well, classical guitar players can.
No, classical is this.
Okay.
No, this wait.
Yeah, there's some kind of movement in the note.
You have to play like cello or viola or violin to be able to do this.
I've never done that, and I played
'Cause
violin.
I tried to do this before I played violin. I couldn't do it.
Okay.
I couldn't.
But vibrato was the hardest thing for you to learn on violin, right? In the past 2 years?
I practiced it
Yeah.
every day for 20 minutes.
Would you do a Patreon program for violinists? You know, I really love making violin videos. But the thing is, there's almost no audience for it on YouTube. Not with the subscriber count I have at this moment, right? So I make a guitar video and there's like thousands of views. I make a violin video and there's only hundreds of views. And the thing is with YouTube, the YouTube algorithm is very difficult to understand, and it's bad for my channel if I do that. So I think I can do live streams about violin for now. Let's see how many subscribers I do have, because I might have, guys, I need more subscribers. I have 12,932. You can see it. I want to go to 13,000. I need 68 more. So everybody call a friend. Oh, it's a Alec Lefebvre is a flamenco.
Okay, it's not the same one then.
No, okay. Okay, I think that's enough for Dennis. You know what? I see Dennis throughout the year in different countries. I mean, how many countries have we seen each other in this year already?
Don't know. 3, 4.
Yeah,
5.
and we'll see each other again in France,
Yeah.
right? And then I'll see him in Canada,
Sure.
because I'll be there in September. And let's do a live stream every time.
No problem.
So then it's up to you guys to determine the topics. So comment with good topics in the under the video, and we'll discuss it
And
next
if you
time.
know like really high level classical violin players,
Yes.
please get in touch with me or Christian.
Yes, please, let's do that. Okay, guys. Oh, wow. Andrew Hannum has a super chat. Let's read it. He just donated $5. Thank you so much.
So you can get dinner from me.
I came for playing the changes discussion. Thank you for confirming my suspicion. Sort of frustrating hearing violin BS and get away with it.
But
You have no idea how many times there's like super long chats between me and Dennis on Facebook.
But let
about
me
this.
say something, because sometimes I go to jam sessions around the world to like high level players, and they all play. All the good players play the tunes, but then sometimes there's a player that shows up, doesn't know. They all ignore him. They just.
Sorry, can you? I missed the beginning.
I meant to say that I go to jam. They're talking about violin players, but this happens on other instruments.
Uh,
But when it happens on other instruments, the musicians hate it.
Yes, yeah.
They
The-
know it right away.
And then let me tell you, so we're in The Hague, right? I live in The Hague. And The Hague is very well known for its bebop education. There's a very well known university here where Barry Harris taught for many years, still sometimes teaches. And the bebop level is very high. So there's always jam sessions every day with bebop sessions. If you go there with your violin and you start doing those tricks, they will kick you off stage after one song. It's just the way it is. Right? So I come from The Hague, and I know that attitude. And although it's not the nicest attitude, I do see the point. Because if there's this saxophone player and trumpet player and piano player and guitar player that work their ass off every day to get their own sound while being able to play the changes and play the actual songs, then they cannot be okay with somebody showing up and having not done that work and getting the same spotlight as they are getting.
I mean, also jam sessions. If they're a beginner, usually they're nice. But it's also about the attitude. If you show up thinking like you're the bomb.
Yeah. I once, I'll tell you a story. Once I was playing, and then somebody showed up, and I didn't know this person, and they said, "Can I join you with the violin?" And we played guitar, bass, violin. It was a modern jazz guitar player, so we were not playing really gypsy jazz. We were playing like everything. I said, "Sure." It's like, "What do you want to play?" And then they said, "Whatever. I love everything." And I already know this is kind of probably pretty bad. So okay, you want to play? I don't know what I said. Let's say you want to play Limehouse Blues? And then they said, "Oh, I don't know the tune, but I love learning new tunes." Then if I hear that, I just want to run.
So it's an attitude thing too, because I don't want to be this. I mean, I don't give the impression that we're knocking on beginners. Not at all.
No.
I let beginners jam all the time, even the ones who are not so great. There's no problem.
This was actually a pretty good violin player, like
yeah.
violin playing. but had no idea that jazz didn't work that way, right? It didn't
Yeah.
work like, okay, now I'm free to do whatever I want,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the super chats and the donations. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video, maybe a live stream, maybe another video. And you will see Dennis again in the first time we see June, right?
July.
July. Okay. Bye.
Bye.